Hello and welcome to this week's Tutorial Tuesday. Today I'm going to explain what a light meter is and how and why you would use them. So for this we'll be looking at the Sekonic L-858D, which is what we have here at JMC. So a light meter is a tool that will ensure that you have the best exposure possible by telling you what your settings should be at on your camera. There are other ways to measure light, things like your waveform, histogram, zebra, vector scope, if you have an external monitor, the false color, but this is something that helps you get there faster and you'll never get a poorly exposed shot again. Now, light meters were essential back in the day when the only shooting that took place was done on film, and this meant that because you couldn't actually see what was happening inside, you had to make sure that everything was correctly exposed, so it was heavily relied upon. Nowadays, you have digital cameras that have built-in spot meters, and you're able to determine your exposure quite quickly just by looking at the screen. Now, that's not to say that digital cameras don't have faults. Sometimes they aren't able to actually read the light accurately, so it's really important that you do learn how to use the light meter and how to read it. Firstly, let's go through the settings. Once you turn it on, you'll just want to do what you normally do with your camera, and that is tell it exactly what you want. In the settings, here we find all types of measuring modes. Now, I'll only focus on two of these, but so you can understand what the others are a bit more, let's go through them. So the T stands for shutter priority. F is if you want aperture priority, and TF means your shutter and your aperture will be locked in and it will give you a reading for your ISO. This middle section is designed for external flash lighting, so not really filmmaking settings that we need. These settings rely on a flash device that is triggered or connected to the meter in order for it to tell it, whether or not the levels are correct. To the right side is for flashes attached to your camera. Again, not for filmmaking, more for photography. So let's go back to the main two that we'll focus on. The first is HD Cine mode, which is a great mode for DSLRs. When using it, you'll notice it has T for shutter, your frame rate, and ISO. When reading the light, your meter will tell you what your f-stop should be at in order for you to have good, correct exposure. The second setting that you should know about is Cine mode, which is for digital cinema cameras and film cameras. So this will allow you to put in your frame rate, your ISO, and your shutter angle. The luminous mode below that allows you to evaluate the light in your scene. So any type of light reading, you can take the light meter around and get a reading on the light in each area. There are two types of metering that the Sekonic uses. The first is incident mode and the second is spot metering. Spot metering is designed for light that is further away, light that you have to read from a distance, and it is used by looking in this piece right here. In the menu, you do have the option to choose between the two. If you decide that you need one or the other, you can just simply select and change it quite quickly. Incident metering is most commonly used, and it is measured using this white dome, which is known as the lumisphere. Now, what you would normally do with this is hold it facing the camera directly in front of your subject, and it will accurately take a reading of all the light that falls onto it. It will then give you the correct f-stop that you need to be at. If, for example, you want to have a lower or higher f-stop than it's telling you to be at, then what you need to do is simply change the intensity or the brightness of your lights, and therefore you'll be able to keep your f-stop the same. Another way to measure the lighting is to isolate each light. Let's say you have two lights, one coming from either side. If you notice on the Sekonic light meter, it actually has a retractable wheel that allows you to then measure the light more directly. So whatever I face this at, it's going to take a much clearer reading of the light that's coming from that source. Now, isolating each light is a bit more of an in-depth way to go about lighting your scene. It's a brilliant way to do it, and if you know how to do it, you can do it well. It's starting to play on a thing called lighting ratios and knowing how much light each one is giving off and the balance that you want there, and then that'll determine your f-stop. But that is a video for another time, so let's just move past that one and get back to... All in all, the most accurate way to read it would be to have it in front of your subject, facing towards the camera and making sure that you're not blocking any light so that you can get the most accurate reading. At the end of the day, it's up to you as to whether or not you want to use this tool. If you're really serious about filmmaking, I do encourage you to invest in it. It's definitely worth training yourself to get into the habit of being able to read the light and using this light meter to enhance your tools. Well, I hope this video is really useful and you guys are all at an understanding on how to use a light meter and why you would use them. Hopefully sometime soon when we get back on campus, we can all have a play around. But until then, stay safe, stay creative, and stay correctly exposed.